think as a kind of a wider point, and obviously, I mean, for people who don't know, but Microdot did loads of other bands other than Oasis. But I think that I think one of the strengths of partly why I think Microdot's work holds up so strongly is that it was never really part of the kind of the kind of, I don't know, the design little kind of clique, I guess.
And another thing, this is why I never got commissioned by any record companies, because they didn't want to work with us, because they knew that I wasn't interested in what they had to say. I worked for the bands, or we worked for the bands. The bands were the client, the bands were the important people. The record companies just paid the bills. That's all I was concerned. And
I think
renegades, really.
Yeah, and I think I think it's quite easy, I guess, for particularly younger designers to fall into a trap of just looking at other designers and having a very limited kind of social circle as well. So that kind of limits your thinking and limits your creativity. And I think actually one of the really interesting things from my years of working in Microdot, when we worked in that little studio on Rivington Street, was the completely random and bonkers people who'd walk in the door after time.
Yeah, brilliant. It was fantastic. It'll never happen again. You know, those days are gone. And I think that's because you came to us straight out of college, didn't you?
No, I'd had one, basically, without wanting to go on too much of an aside, like I tell people this story all the time, that I did a placement at Microdot, literally when I was supposed to be in London showing my degree show. I put my degree show up, came to see you. You said, have some days doing a work placement. I was like, brilliant. Didn't go to my own sort of like degree show thing, just came and worked at Microdot.
Right.
Then I went to, I got a job somewhere else, but basically so that I could keep harassing Microdot and you and John and Matthew, to the point where I used to go in the barley mow because I knew that you'd all go in there after work.
Yeah.
So I'd go in, and then like, you'd walk in, and I'd be like, "Oh, fancy seeing you here," and you were all like, "Come on, you know I'm in here." And eventually, you just went, "Look, Paul, I think we need a junior designer. Do you want a job?" Like,
yeah. No, but I mean, I think there was no one else like us. There probably never will be again. But that was all born out of the fact that I'd never had a job. I didn't know how it was supposed to be done. You know, I'd never worked in an agency. I'd made it all up as I went along. Made some spectacular mistakes. Most of all, with running of the business. I mean, that's why I ended up failing in the end. I just didn't know anything about the business side of it. But that was not the point. You know, I wasn't running a business. Like, me and Matthew still laugh about this. It was an art house experiment. You know, it's like, that's what Microdot was. How long can we get away with this for? That's the way I looked at it. I mean, you've got to understand, you know, me and Matthew, we were just a pair of shit kickers from the north who didn't have two bob to rub together. Blagged 10 grand, not blagged, got an advance of 10,000 quid, which was a fortune to us back then, to buy a Mac. You know, a Mac, a monitor and a printer and a scanner was 5 grand back 20 odd years ago. You know, that was a fortune. To set up this studio in Shoreditch, I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is it. I've made it here. I mean, I did an interview just the other week, and I made the point there that I actually thought I was rich, right? And my definition of rich at that time, because I'd never had any money, nor had my family. I come from a working class family that never had anything. So I'm living in London in 1996, which was the centre of the universe. My definition of being rich was I could buy a pair of jeans at any time I wanted, and I could take a girl to a restaurant any night of the week. That was it. I could effectively do anything that I wanted to. I was minted. That's the way I looked at it. And, you know, spiritually, emotionally, if not financially, I was minted. It was the time of my life. It was incredible.